Sorry, this is maybe a dumb question to even ask, but if fatness is blackness, why is it okay for a woman who is white to be fat, but she cannot, I understand why, but but I'm asking as if I was somebody who's not from this planet, okay?
Before we get started, I wanted to give a quick disclaimer. Today's episode is going to be a lighthearted but still serious discussion about something I've noticed in parts of the fat acceptance movement. They have the tendency to borrow, compare, or sometimes outright co-opt the struggles of genuinely marginalized groups. Specifically, we're going to be touching base on the claims that fatness is blackness and the idea that fatphobia is racism. I want to make it clear that I'm approaching this topic with curiosity and respect. As many of you know, I ask a lot of questions and I genuinely enjoy open discussion in the comments, even when we disagree, because of me always trying to learn. Because this topic touches on race, I have reached out to a couple of my Black subscribers beforehand to make sure I wasn't missing important perspectives or approaching the conversation with disrespect. I want to give a huge shout out to my friend Stephanie. Stephanie, thank you so much for helping me work through some of my confusion and answering my questions and being willing to have an honest conversation with me. I have a tremendous amount of love and respect for you, and I genuinely look up to you. Also, Stephanie, you do have the full permission to use my comment section to shamelessly promote your book. With that out of the way, let's jump into the discussion.
Good morrow, everybody. My name is Robin, also known as Sunny Side Up Gal, and you are my Sunny Side Up pal. Good morning, good morrow, and good day. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, thank you so much for stopping by. Please consider giving me a subscribe and go ahead and like the video because me know you're gonna like the video. I really do. I know you're gonna like it. And if it's giving you the option to hype it, go ahead and hype it. If you are not new here, thank you so much for returning. I really appreciate you coming back every week. If this is like your second or third time, let me know in the comments so I can welcome you to the club. And speaking of clubs, I do offer memberships, so check the link below and become a member today. It's only $2 a month, make you holler. And if you are a member, I really appreciate you being one of my little baby eggies of the Egg Carton. All right, folks, let's just jump into what we're doing. Today is going to be sort of a copium done. I did promise a copium done. I need to do them more often. And it's kind of a part of this like weird series that I had no idea I was starting, but it was bothering me. So if you're not aware, today is Juneteenth. And if you're like, what is Juneteenth? It's June 19th. But it is a holiday celebrated in the United States. If you're not from the United States, it's what we would call like a bank holiday. It's a federal holiday. So like government buildings will close. People who work government offices, most of them will be off. The mail's not going to be running that day, etc., etc., etc. I don't have the day off. I have to work, which I think is stupid because I get like President's Day off and nobody gives a shit about President's Day. But I give a shit about Juneteenth because it's important to me. It is a holiday celebrating the last slaves in the Confederacy. So the Civil War, the Union were like the good guys and then the Confederacy were like the bad guys, etc., right? The last slaves of the Confederacy were freed from Texas on June 19th, 1865. But did you guys happen to know that the last like large number of slaves freed were after June 19th and December of 1865 from Kentucky, a Union state? Nobody knows that. I didn't know that. Did you know that? I was shook. I was like, why isn't that the day that was celebrated? Right? I'm sure those slaves who were enslaved for more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation would be like wanting to celebrate that, right? I don't know. Listen, our country is weird, and so are the people of this country. And we're going to talk a little trash about some of the people in this country right now. I've been doing this little like series that I had no idea that I was doing. But this is also going to be like sort of a copium den. And if you're not familiar with a copium den is just like excuses that people make to continue to stay fat and eat whatever they want. Why make a copium den? It's entertaining. So the little series that I started was I was finding words that the fat acceptance community have been co-opting from other marginalized groups, or just like co-opting in general. It doesn't necessarily need to be marginalized, because I did do one on grief. We had a gal on here who was talking about grieving a body that she never will have, when in reality she was grieving the body that she kind of gave up on. We had genocide, so the fat acceptance community claiming that weight loss is a form of genocide. We also had, I had an Egg Carton episode where fatness was queerness, and how the fat acceptance community has kind of like meshed the word fatphobia to kind of reflect the same. So the term fat phobia was mirrored or like modeled after after the term homophobia, to kind of frame anti-fat bias or like anti-fat acceptance as some kind of like a prejudice. The fat acceptance community created the word fat phobia to like it by borrowing the linguistic framework of homophobia, so that your hatred of fat bodies was seen as like a social prejudice rather than like an actual health concern, which I, I mean, it is a health concern. The obesity epidemic is very real, and it just them co-opting all of this other language is so icky to me, because it's just a way to like use these marginalized groups so that they can eat whatever they want. The fat acceptance needs these other marginalized groups so that they can like steal their languages, sort of like steal their protection points, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense. So because they can't control what they're eating and they want to stay fat. Like, that sounds super mean, but we can agree, right? Can we agree that the fat acceptance community likes to use marginalized groups, talking points, and reframing them so that they can use it for themselves, basically. And today's episode is going to be how they do that with the Black community. So examples would be the fat acceptance community likes to use the terms like fat bodied.
So I'm going to use fat bodied.
And that was brought up to me in a comment section, that they use those words because the Black community has also used black bodied. Well, actually it's used into academia as well, but like black bodied was used, or black bodies, the terminology has been used to emphasize how society has discriminated against actual bodies and not like the people. So like black bodies take away the soul, take away the person, like the actual color, the actual body, the actual like physical body is discriminated against. And so fat people are doing the same thing. So they're like, our bodies, our fat bodies are being discriminated against, yada yada yada, when in reality it's like, no, you just are growing too big and you cannot fit, basically. Like, again, I always want to preface that like, I understand that medical fat bias does exist. I have experienced medical fat bias myself. I had a cancer scare and was told by a doctor that I probably just needed to exercise, basically, and it ended up being cancer. Well, pre-cancer. They also say that fat phobia is rooted in racism, which my counter argument is that that is a genetic fallacy. So like, just because something is rooted in something bad doesn't necessarily mean that in 2026 it is still bad. So, for example, I have many. Birth control was rooted in eugenics. Does that mean that everybody who is on birth control is a eugenicist? According to fat logic, it could technically mean that we are eugenicists. The internet was invented by the military. Does that mean that anytime that we get on our phones and post something that is a military operation or that we support war? No. Pit bulls were bred to like fight other dogs and stuff like that. And now, does that mean that like everybody who owns a pit bull is like a dog fighter? No. It's very picky choosy. It's very picky choosy. The fat acceptance loves to just pick what's acceptable and what's not, and that's just not how society works. And then also the other thing too is like the reason why I think the fat acceptance community likes to co-opt these phrases and this terminology and give it a little bit of diabetes and like turn it into their own words so that they have extra layers of armor against anybody who is going to try to force them to lose weight, which nobody's going to force you to lose weight. It's kind of like your own choice, but they refuse to accept accountability. So the more things that they can add on, the more things that they can layer on to their fat identity. So for example, a lot of people in the fat acceptance community, they do like to express their social identities. So like they'll be like, member of the LGBTQIA and this, this kind of political party and this preferred government ideology and this type of, and I am a person of color, and like it's very, very much identity politics. They do that so that anytime that you want to tell them to lose weight, that they can tell you that you're being a racist or a homophobe or that you're a fascist, basically. And I just have to disagree with that. I do. I will. And we're going to sit, we're going to chit, we're going to chat, and we're going to talk a lot of trash about people claiming that anti-fat acceptance is rooted in racism or is racist in general. All right. So this is Hannah Talks Bodies. She has been pretty popular in the fat acceptance community, but she kind of disappeared. Haven't seen her in a while. I think the last interview that she did was 2 years ago, and this video is actually from 2021 on TikTok, and don't know what she's doing. I hope she's diving into her work. She's a therapist, I believe, and I hope that, maybe wouldn't it be wonderful if she came back to the internet and she lost a bunch of weight? That'd be crazy. But
here's your reminder that fatphobia is rooted in racism. As always, if you haven't read this book, go do that.
Okay, so the book that she held up was Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings. I haven't read it yet. I wish that I wasn't having such a hard time reading books lately, but I am. And I'm trying to get back into it. But for me to get back into reading again, I have to read fiction. And that's clearly not a fiction book, but like it has to be kind of like fun first. Anyway, let's keep going.
The main thing to understand is that for the last 300-ish years, white folks have been marketing fatness as a black trait.
So, what's crazy is I hadn't heard that until people started bringing up until the fat acceptance community started bringing that up. Like I never really ever thought of fatness as a black thing, honestly. And it kind of feels weird to even say, like, those words coming out of my mouth, it sounds weird to even say it. It sounds like I'm saying sin, basically. That sounds very just made up, kind of. Because when I was younger, whenever I saw a fat person, it was always a white lady. And I lived in a military background, so like it's a very, very large mix of people. So if you didn't know that, but like living in the military is very, very diverse, and most of the fat people were white women. Even still, I guess I'm thinking, let's think back early 1900s. I can guess maybe this is correct. I mean, like the negative stereotypes with black women were angry and fat, right? So like if we're thinking, I'm so sorry, but we've been watching Tom and Jerry lately, and like when we're thinking of Tom and Jerry, there is a particular housekeeper. It's a very racist stereotype, and I think her name is racist as well. But it is all you see. You don't even see her head or her face or anything. All you see is just her body, and it is a big black body. And I can kind of see, that. I don't know if people were trying to stay in a fit body to avoid not being black. Does that make sense? I know I'm not like the best speaker, but like I don't think that women in the 40s were trying to lose weight because they didn't want to be like their black neighbor or something like that. Like I just don't think that was a thing. I think that they just wanted to be thin, but I don't think that their thinness was an act of racism. Does that make sense, you guys? I'm not 100% sure.
And this is regardless of whether or not black people individually were actually fat. That was irrelevant. The message they spread was that black women specifically were ravenous and uncontrollable. And these...
Okay, so I have seen this part in the Sabrina Strings book, and I'm wondering when Sabrina did, I'm sure she did plenty of excellent research or whatever, but like I wonder if when the research was done, when she read ravenous and uncontrollable, I wonder if she read ravenous as like ravenous in the sense of being ravenous around food, or if the person, if the people describing black women as ravenous, if they were describing them as sexually ravenous. And like this is actually a common stereotype with black women. I can definitely imagine a white man talking about a black woman like that. So I wonder if maybe it was never even about food. It was just about sexual traits, maybe? I'm not sure.
barbaric traits made them fat. On the flip side,
Because again, it's talking about slave trade, and like the slaves weren't fat. They had fatty like deposits. Like obviously black women carry like genetically can carry weight in different parts of their body than like a genetically like pure white woman. But I don't think that they ever did. I wouldn't ever describe that as like fat. Like this Hannah's fat.
thinness was marketed as a white trait. Again, regardless of whether or not individual white people were actually thin, that was irrelevant. The idea was that white women specifically were refined and restrained, and this led them to having delicate, thin bodies. Over the years, these messages have
We're gonna finish this. We're gonna finish this, but this is like a lot of the people that I picked out. Like their stuff that they say is just, it's literally like kind of like parroting each other, and then it's nothing. It's like a nothing thing, a nothing burger.
but even today, they are still very prevalent in conversations around race, health, capitalism, and poverty. Here's your reminder that fatphobia is rooted in racism. As always, if you haven't read this book, go do that. The main thing to understand is that for the last 300-ish years, white folks have been marketing fatness as a black trait, and this is regardless of whether or not black people individually were actually fat. That was irrelevant. The message they spread was that black women specifically were ravenous and uncontrollable, and these barbaric traits made them fat. On the flip side, thinness was marketed as a white trait. Again, regardless of whether or not individual white people were actually thin, that was irrelevant. The idea was that white women specifically were refined and restrained, and this led them to having delicate, thin bodies.
It's so crazy to me because like that's so, even if this was the case 300-ish years ago, it's not the case now, and the obesity epidemic affects all races, even in Asian culture, right? Not just talking about like, you know, I'm talking about all Asian cultures in America. The obesity epidemic in America affects every race, and the most of the people who it affect are white people, because white people are the highest population. However, 75% of the country is fat. Of that 75%, of the 75%, 40% of them are going to be white. Not 40% of the 75. Like if I had a room full of 100 people, 75 people would be fat. Of those 75, 40 would be white. Just saying.
Over the years, these messages have become more subtle, but even today, they are still very prevalent in conversations around race, health, capitalism, and poverty.
Okay, doesn't that just feel like, can I get more? Can I get more? Can I get more from you, Hannah? What the hell? All right, Hannah Talks Body. These messages are still prevalent to this day. They are subtly woven into our conversations about health, race, class, poverty, and more. Fatphobia is intertwined with white supremacy in so many ways, from how we perceive fatness conceptually to how we talk about fat people, especially fat BIPOC. In society, the systems and structures that intersect race, class, health, and size. Here are some questions to think about. Which communities have readily available access to healthcare? Which communities receive high-quality healthcare? Which communities have easy and affordable access to nutritious foods? Which communities experience the worst air and water pollution? Which communities have access to safe housing? Which communities have access to well-funded schools? Which communities have access to safe streets and outdoor recreation spaces? Which communities are blamed for being unhealthy as a result of their personal responsibility? So again, it's a generalization that Black people are stuck in these like shitty communities and that they're fat.
I know Black Americans are disproportionately represented in poorer communities, but that doesn't mean we can act like all Black people live in poverty. A population trend isn't the same as an individual person's reality. The same goes for obesity. People like to confuse risk factors like poverty with a direct cause. Poverty can make healthy habits harder for some people. I admit it, but I think it's very affordable to eat healthy. What I'm saying is that poverty is not obesogenic. There are skinny poor people. Anyway, obesity exists across every income level. How much a household brings in cannot be blamed for obesity when you also see high rates in middle and upper income groups. We should be able to talk about the obesity epidemic without adding to stereotypes of other marginalized groups. Okay?
Like that feels so generalized, which feels wrong to me. Because again, like I said, the obesity epidemic, it affects everybody. It affects everybody in this country. It's no longer a thing about race. If it ever was a thing about race, which I do understand that, like, it's possible. But if it ever was a thing about race, it's not a thing about race anymore. People aren't looking at black bodies and then going, I don't want that for myself. I need to be skinny. People are dying and they need to lose weight for their health. It is a medical emergency, basically. So, as far, to me, the fact that she is pushing back so hard on racism to stay fat feels so weird to me. Like, I don't know. Doesn't it feel like she's pushing fat phobia is racist to stay fat? You're white. Why are you appropriating black culture then?
That's a joke. Again, it's no one's culture to be morbidly obese in 2026 America. It is not black culture to be obese, and that's a harmful new stereotype that we should call out more.
So I wanted to mainly have white women talking about racism and fat phobia, but it made sense to throw in some people of color talking about it as well. All right, so Samira, the parking meter thing, if you're not familiar with the parking meter thing, I'll plug in the video here.
Why is there diet culture on the parking meters? Why do we have on the parking meters, sometimes I diet, don't feed me on the following holidays? Why are we promoting fat phobia and diet culture even on the parking meters in LA? It gets to a point. It really does get to a point. This is an issue and this needs to be fixed. West Hollywood, this is actually disgusting.
Let's watch.
Parking meter, let's talk about it. But actually, let's read about it. Now, I am not giving these recommendations for anybody who...
So she's holding up books. Let me go ahead and read off what they are. Fearing the Fat Body by Sabrina Strings. Belly of the Beast by Deshaun Deshaun L. Harrison. Thick and Other Essays. What We Don't Talk About When We Talk About Fat by Aubrey Gordon. Unshrinking by Kate Mann. The Power of Plus, Inside Fashion, Size, Inclusivity, Revolution by Gianluca Russo.
Is determined to be dense and misunderstand anything that I am saying. I am recommending these books to people who genuinely would like to unlearn fat phobia and diet culture. And if that sounds like you, I really do recommend starting with Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings. It talks about the racial origins of fat phobia. Yes, racism and fat phobia do intersect, as everything does.
Okay, so again, if it's rooted in racism, which I'm so on the fence about. Like, yeah, I understand that maybe people in the 300 years ago were like, ew, black bodies, let's not be curvy, right? I can understand that. But it's 2026. Everybody's fat. The obesity epidemic affects everybody. And curves are in. Big booties are in, right? It is like they're saying that fatism. It is like they're saying fat culture is black culture, and that feels so weird to me. I have many people of color, and I'm a person of color, by the way. I am half Filipino. I know I come off as white. I don't really like to. Should I? I have white privilege. Like, I know that I'm not necessarily a person of color, but I am. I didn't experience racism growing up, but my brothers did. We lived in Tucson, which is an hour away from the Mexican border, and both of them have been stopped. Well, my brother Troy was stopped on a bridge one time and asked to show his ID in Spanish, and we don't speak Spanish. And then my other brother has been treated inappropriately by people believing that he is Mexican in Arizona. So we experience racism. I don't, though, because I still look white, but that is my point of privilege, I guess. But anyway, what was I getting at? I have people of color in my comment section who agree with me that they think that this whole like grasp onto fat phobia as racism is ridiculous, and the idea that like being anti-fat is being anti-black is stupid. Sorry, this is maybe a dumb question to even ask, but if fatness is blackness, why is it okay for a woman who is white to be fat, but she cannot, I understand why, but I'm asking as if I was somebody who's not from this planet, okay? Why, if fatness is blackness, why is it okay for a white woman to be fat, super fat, but it's not okay for a white woman to wear black hairstyles?
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
Is it because fatness affects everybody? Yes.
Almost 75% of the country is fat. It can't be claimed by one particular race, so being anti-fat acceptance or fatphobic or on a weight loss journey isn't inherently racist.
And another great book that talks about that same thing is Belly of the Beast by Deshaun L. Harrison. There are so many other books that talk about this topic. These are just some of them. And of course, I understand why people don't think the parking meter is an issue, because we have been conditioned to think that fat phobia isn't an issue. To think that fat phobia doesn't even exist. It is a
So again, the whole parking meter thing, the parking meter said it was on a diet and she shit herself.
alive and well. So happy reading. Or to those of you who are not going to partake, do whatever you want. I don't know. Do what you gotta do to convince yourself that fat phobia don't exist. The parking meter.
I would agree that fat phobia exists. I would say that I am fat phobic myself. That said, to me it is is it like I'm afraid of fat people, like in that kind of a sense of a phobia? No, but it is afraid of like me. I am afraid of getting fat on my body, excess fat again, because I did have a cancer scare from having excess fat on my body, you guys. I did. It's not good. And that doesn't mean that I'm racist. I'm not. It means that I know and understand science, and I know that things can change, right? If fat phobia was ever a part of racism, if fat phobia was ever really racist, it's no longer racist now because the obesity epidemic touches every corner of the fucking country, basically. Okay. Fat phobia fuels fascism. Check out these creators. All right, I'm not sure if this one is racist. I'm not sure if this one touches base on racism, but I assumed it did because it's talking about fascism, so let's listen.
I can't stress this enough. If you care about liberation, you must unpack your internalized anti-fatness. Fat phobia is rooted in colonialism, racism, and white supremacy.
Okay. Assuming again she's bringing up the Sabrina Strings book, I will say the whole colonialism thing and fat phobia, I'm gonna just disagree with, because anywhere that like colonialism has like touched the indigenous people, where the colonists, like the indigenous people of those countries have gotten fat. So it almost feels like colonialism causes fatness, because you introduce famine foods to people who used to hunt and work for their food, they get fat. And this is a very apparent phenomenon in countries like I think Tonga, the Nauru, indigenous cultures in the United States. So there was a movie called Killers of the Flower Moon, I think it's what it's called, with Leonardo DiCaprio. It was talking about the Osage tribe and a lot of stuff that was going on in there. Whatever, it was a movie. But the Osage tribe experienced a hardship of like a surplus of obesity and type 2 diabetes, because the tribe members were eating the food of the settlers, I guess. So yeah, anytime that colonialism touches a foreign country, the people of the foreign country get fatter. It just doesn't make, colonialism is fatness to me. When I see colonialism, I'm like, fat, because colonists are fat. I don't know. Let's listen.
Sabrina Strings proves this in her book Fearing the Black Body, showing how today's obesity...
The fear of the imagined fat black woman was created by racial and religious ideologies that have been used to both degrade black women and discipline white women.
Epidemic is actually just a new form of centuries-old fear of black women. Notice how the return of heroin chic lines up...
People think that heroin chic is on this like crazy rise because they see Ariana Grande be a skeleton on stage, and I'm just like, we're getting to this point where most people are like kind of becoming, you know, media literate, and like we understand that like what we have in our hands isn't real life. Like being IRL is IRL. So like being out in the world and interacting with like our coworkers and interacting with our friends at school and our dentist, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We all can agree that nobody is really trying their hardest to be heroin chic or to be Ariana Grande. Like the only people who really, really are looking at that and being like, cool, that's what's in, I'm going to do that, is like a child, somebody who doesn't have a lot of structure or like discretion on their phones. And then maybe people in like larger cities, like I'm going to say like in New York City or like in LA, like I can kind of see that being, but they're closer to the influence, if that makes any sense. But I live in a small town in Florida. Nobody here in the South is trying to be heroin chic. In fact, the beauty standard is like not that. And then, yeah, go to anywhere else in the United States. First of all, the United States is huge. You can't even drive from one end to the other end in a day, right? The beauty standard in different areas and different regions of the United States is so different. Like, it's strange to have a brain, live where you are, and be like, heroin chic is back. We're fucking, it's over for us. You know what I mean?
Perfectly with the rise of conservative values. That's not an accident.
Conservative values. I feel like the world is getting like less and less conservative. I don't know. There's a mix. A lot of people are I feel like a lot of people are actually going more center. But as far as that meaning that's bringing on heroin chic, like, do you know what it takes to get there? Like, do you know why it's even called heroin chic? A lot of drugs, you know. Also, heroin chic is like it's not attainable without some kind of like intervention or some kind of mental illness, right? And to me that doesn't read as conservative, that just reads like mental ill.
Accident. If you follow any eating disorder experts, you've probably already heard
Why the right is obsessed with thinness.
about the wellness to MAGA pipeline. Both diet culture and conservatism.
Oh, that was not even, she didn't even touch base on that. Okay, so like why the right is obsessed with thinness. I don't know if
The idea that wanting health or even thinness automatically puts someone into a right-wing MAGA pipeline is just identity politics used as a scare tactic. It turns a personal goal into a political label, which keeps people afraid of being seen as on the wrong side instead of actually thinking clearly for themselves. Meanwhile, most people are just trying to feel better in their bodies and navigate a confusing food and health system. The truth is, large systems of power really don't care about our internal cultural wars. They actually benefit when we're fighting each other instead of asking bigger questions.
Emphasize the individual over the collective, and both play into capitalism. I was at dinner tonight, and the restaurant had a football game on the TV. Every commercial was about beer, fast food, or weight loss drugs. All these commercials had the same theme. Your life will be better if you buy this product. They don't want you to be healthy. They want you to buy their products.
That's very true. 100% agree. No matter what, you guys, whatever you're watching on your phone or on your computer, everybody wants to sell you something.
My own dietitian is an eating disorder specialist who is the head dietitian of a major healthcare system, and she tells me all about how her patients who have gone on weight loss drugs literally just stop eating. They aren't getting the macronutrients that their bodies need, and it's resulting in muscle loss. That is not healthy.
That's true. I agree with that. If you're doing any kind of GLP-1 medications, like, obviously your doctor who is prescribing you the GLP-1 medications needs to like specify you need to up your protein or prioritize protein. I think that's a problem with a lot of people who just go on these drugs and they don't do any research and they just, you know, eat whatever, but like the priority is protein. That's why they lose their muscle.
To be clear, there is nothing wrong with weight loss. In fact,
God, there's the listen, you have bodily autonomy, but moment.
Our bodies naturally fluctuate in weight over time. The problem is when...
Okay. So on the page, it's just a bunch of ads, basically, that they've screenshotted, which, shockingly, the color palette is all very, very uniform. I don't know if they did that on purpose or if their algorithm is trying to, like, just knows that they like pink and orange.
And it's sold back to us as morality or profit. And it's incredibly ironic to me that the West is simultaneously funding the mass starvation of Palestinians and then marketing a deliberate form of starvation for people who have access.
Damn. She's actually spitting here.
Access to food. And really, it's the people
I mean, not that I'm saying that, like, the West is trying to market starvation for American citizens. I don't think that that's the case with GLP-1s. Like, nobody's wanting you to carve yourself, basically. Everybody wants to be in a leaner body. But she did spit there.
Who have access to food, who are romanticizing weight loss drugs, while cutting funding to food stamps and shaming low-income families for buying their children fast food.
I'm not going to stop shaming people from buying children fast food. Because even if you're low income, like, I can't even, I'm not low income. I don't have food stamps. I have a budget. Fast food's not on the menu for me because that's so expensive. If I wanted to buy fast food for every meal, first of all, I eat less often when I'm on plan because I eat a ketogenic diet and eating a lot of fat is very, very filling. If I ate fast food for most of my meals, I would be broke because first of all, McDonald's, the way that I eat McDonald's, it's like a $15 like a meal basically. And because it's mostly carbs, I'm hungry in like 3 hours. So I would be eating like 3 or 4 times a day just to like not be hungry. Like if I'm chasing non-hunger, which is what I did a lot when I was not morbid. I did a lot when I was 230, like 222 pounds basically. And that's what a lot of people in the fat acceptance community does. I will continue to shame people regardless of their income for feeding their children fast food because it's much cheaper to feed your kid a bag of vegetables and a protein than it is to feed them fast food for every meal. Like, I don't care. I don't care. We could break it down. A fucking Happy Meal, which I know that people buying their kids Happy Meals, I know that people buying their kids McDonald's are not just buying them Happy Meals anymore, you guys. The Happy Meals, they're not even, those would never even fill your kid up. So I'm going to say let's do like a 10-piece nugget, a fry, and a drink, which is like I would say $10, right? I don't know. I'll break it down. Robin, you'll have to just break it down and do a voiceover, but like basically let's compare a fast food dish to a homemade dish. I understand that cooking home cooked dishes, not every kid wants to eat a home cooked dish because you've been feeding them addictive food basically, but like I also understand that like it's hard for working moms to like cook, cook every night. But meal prep exists, you guys. Meal prep exists, and yeah, it's hard, and yeah, it's difficult, but you just have to pick your hard. You have to choose your hard. You got to understand, do you want to save money or do you want to eat like shit? I don't know. I don't know. And it's so much healthier too. It really is. Like even if you like were feeding your kid, I would even say like a frozen pizza is healthier than fast food. Like even if you wanted to feed your kid a Tostino's pizza every day, I would judge less. I would judge less because you're also saving a little bit of cash, right? I don't know, I'm going on a tangent, but like I do judge. If you want to buy your kid fast food for every meal, like I'm gonna judge you. I will judge you. You can do better. You can do better, you guys. Fast food should be a treat. Fast food's a treat for me. If I want to get fast food, that's a treat. That's a cheat and that's a treat.
But have you ever stopped to consider?
Okay, the food deserts thing. According to the USDA.gov's website, there are different parameters to like determine what is a food desert and what what percentage of the population is living in the food desert. So basically this first one has like a little bit of a looser definition. I think you can read it on the screen if you like. So if a certain number of the population is greater than 1/2 mile away from the nearest supermarket, supercenter, or large grocery store for an urban area, so like inner city, or greater than 10 miles for a rural area. Using this measure, an estimated 53.6 million people, or 17.4% of the U.S. population, lives in this type of a food desert. Low income, the second bullet, low income census tracts where a significant number or share of the population is greater than 1 mile from the nearest supermarket, supercenter, or large grocery store for an urban or inner city area, or greater than 10 miles for a rural area. This measure shows that an estimated 18.8 million people, or 6.1% of the U.S. population. I like this one the best, this definition the best, because it does make sense. 1/2 mile in a city is kind of like a jump, skip, and a hop away to me. Like that's not a lot. I'm like a little less than 1/2 mile away from my nearest grocery store, but 1/2 mile away from me is like I have a hardware store that's 1/2 mile away from me, and I can walk there in like 10 minutes. Like it doesn't, I don't know. It's strange. That's a weird measurement for me. All right, and then this last one, it says low income census tracts where a significant number of at least 500 or share of at least 33% of the population is greater than 1 mile from the nearest supermarket in an inner city area, or greater than 20 miles for a rural area. This puts the number at 5.6%. of the US population being in a food desert. So I feel like 20 miles for a rural area is a little bit too far. Like, I feel like if I'm 10 to 15 miles, that counts as like a food desert. I don't know. What do you guys think? It would have to be all highway and no mountains. But yeah, I like this center one. So again, it's somewhere in between 6.1%. Let's go ahead and just give them, let's give them a range. So somewhere in between 6.1% to 17.4% of the population is in a food desert. That's nothing, in my opinion. That is nothing. Not that it's nothing, meaning I don't care. I do care. That sucks. But the way that the fat acceptance community likes to use the whole food desert argument is, I'm just going to say it's weird to me because it's such a small number of people, and the people who like to bring up the food desert thing don't live in a food desert. Like, let's be for fucking real. They don't live in a food desert. But anyway, let's read this. 23.5 million people live in urban neighborhoods and rural towns with limited access to fresh, affordable, and healthy food. 2.1 million households do not own a vehicle and live more than 1 mile away from the nearest grocery store. People of the poorest socioeconomic status have 2.5 times. Okay, but they're bringing this whole low income thing to be like all low income is fat. That's how I'm reading it. I don't know. I'm reading in extremes, like how they would read in extremes. Are they saying that all low income is fat?
Why people are buying fast food. From colonialism to capitalism to conservatism, it's all connected, and we can't talk about liberation without talking about fatphobia. I cannot stress this enough.
It just seems like a reach to me. Because we see a lot of people in higher government who are obese. Randy. Oh my god, our favorite Dr. Rachel Milner. I know she's on my channel quite a bit, you guys. She does need to have her own episode again soon. Let's listen.
About how fatness is an act of resistance. Anytime I make posts like that,
I don't even know you. Oh my god, people are awful. All right, I don't even know you, and I saw one post about being a fat activist is effing R, and you're doing more harm than good to anybody who sees your post. I highly advise you seek help instead of dragging others down with you. You piss me off. Jeez Louise, you guys.
I get messages like,
stop promoting being fat. It's not healthy. You aren't smart. You are wrong. I don't think she's smart at all. For somebody who is a doctor, y'all, let me show you what she looked like not even 10 years ago, you guys. Not even 10 years ago. Okay, this is Dr. Rachel Milner 10 years ago. Not even 10 years ago, actually. I think 8 years ago. She was on a podcast, some other food podcast. Again, this is all going to be in my... I need to do an episode on her like ASAP, but like 10 years ago. And I was listening to the episode and she sounded like way more coherent. I don't know what happened between here and today, but something tells me maybe medication. She sounds heavily medicated nowadays. I'm being honest with you. Not that there's anything wrong with being medicated. I understand it's probably due for her for something, but it also does to me sound like she is also heavily glycated. Like she's, oh, I had it skewed. My bad. She sounds like the sugar has gotten to her brain. All right, stop promoting being fat. It's not healthy. You aren't smart. You are wrong. Put that energy into proper diet, exercise, and talking to your doctor on how to better yourself or unalive early from weight-related issues. Jesus Louises. Okay. If everybody starts drinking more, why don't we just accept that people need to have more alcohol in their blood? Why isn't being alcoholic the new normal? If some stupid reels, if something is defined as healthy by the quantity of people who partake in it, then making stupid reels should be the optimal way to spend your time.
And they prove my point about
fat activist is crazy. I think I'm going to be a cancer activist. Oh, Jesus.
About why fatness in and of itself is an act of resistance. The system.
Bruv. There's I'm not even trying to be mean. There is something wrong with Dr. Rachel. There is something wrong. I wonder if she's taking patients because I feel like she's going a little batty, maybe. Very, very emotional in her takes, by the way.
Systems of oppression want us hungry, they want us small, they want us quiet.
Listen to this. Since I've changed my lifestyle, I am less hungry than I now, living in a leaner body, than I was when I was 232 pounds or 222 pounds after the pandemic. When I was pre-diabetic, I was constantly hungry. Yes, I was. So maybe she is right, because I feel like a lot of the food nowadays is like built to keep you hungry. Like it's not very filling, it's not very nutritiously dense, if that makes sense what I'm talking about. Like it's not food that's built to sustain you. It's food to that's created to like make its creators richer. So like you buy more of it, it keeps you hungry basically. Because why they wouldn't make as much money if like you bought it once a week. They want you to buy it every day, right?
They want us more easily controlled. And when we are dieting, when we're restricting, we are more easily controllable.
So this is something that's this is from 19 weeks ago, but I swear to God, I see this everywhere, especially when I've been doing my Fat Logic episodes. Everybody's just parroting this exact thing. They want to control us. They want us starving. They want us, fascism likes to starve its people so that they can control us. Listen, I'm so sorry to say this. I mean, that was maybe that was a tactic back in the day, but guess what? You are being controlled by food. And if fascism is an actual thing going on in this country, I wouldn't be shocked if it was, if some kind of letters were released 26 years from now saying that they were putting something in the food, or that like they were purposely making Americans fat to do research on them or to try to control them. There's so much shit coming out that I would not even be shocked. I wouldn't even be shocked. But if the country were to become some kind of crazy police state where like we had to run or something like that, the fat people would just have to surrender. There would be no fighting back for them. It's the people who can actually run and jump and pull themselves up and fall and get back up again who would be the ones who could actually like fight back. So in a sense, being in a morbidly obese body like our friend Dr. Rachel Milner here is a great way, for a country like a tyrannical government to control its citizens by making you unfight backable. You cannot defend yourself. That's why this is also why the Second Amendment is very important, you guys.
And so existing in a fat body pisses off these systems, and it pisses off the people who
No, I would say existing in a fat body is making these systems, which say, for example, the like medical system or the pharmaceutical system extremely happy. You guys are going to be forever patients. They're making money off of you forever.
Uphold the systems. They have so much anger and rage about a woman taking up space unapologetically that they're spending their time messaging.
I deserve an apology. I deserve an apology having to listen to you almost every week. I should just do a one and done like episode of her and then just be like, no more Rachel. No, she's so fun to cover.
Me and giving me an awful lot of power when they could just be on a page with people who agree with them. There's millions of pro-dieting, pro-weight loss pages out there that they could spew their anti-fat bias and people.
Unfortunately, Rachel, if you knew anything about the algorithm and Instagram, they love vitriol. Your algorithm, you can be on a weight loss. I'm on a weight loss journey. And I follow tons and tons of keto accounts on my Instagram. Well, I don't open Instagram anymore, but I did. And I would barely even get any of the people I followed on my feed anymore. It was all like anti-diet stuff, like fat acceptance stuff. And yeah, sure, I do click on it, and that, also manipulates the algorithm. But like, you would think, I don't know why Instagram doesn't do this, but you would think I follow these people. Why am I not getting, like, I really, really do miss the old Instagram. I miss the old Kanye.
I miss the old Kanye, straight from the gold Kanye.
Where like you would follow somebody and then every day you'd get like you'd get the same people that you would follow, and it was like chronological. And then when you got to the bottom, it'd say like, you're all caught up, and then you'd continue your day, right? I miss that. Now I don't even get, sometimes I don't even know that, my friends have posted anything until I actually have to search for their name and find their new post. Like, isn't that crazy? I just think that's dumb.
People would applaud it. Instead, it makes them so angry that there is a woman who is unapologetically fat and refusing to try to lose weight. They're spending time sending me messages.
You guys, again, I don't want to bring up the medication thing, but doesn't it seem like she's over medicated? Doesn't it seem like something's disconnected? Doesn't it seem like there's so much sugar in her brain and it's causing some kind of like slowdown? Like, that's not even to be mean, but like, she looked so alive here, just in her eyes. Right? That's, again, 8 years apart.
It's a pretty sad and pathetic life. I posted about how
I don't even know her personally. I can just look at her face and be like, I'm not even going to say it. You know exactly what I said, though, in my brain.
Whenever you feel...
All right, so this gal is going over a portion of the Fearing the Fat Bodies by Sabrina Strings. And I only watched a portion of it, but I wanted to see what they had to say. Because I did a little bit of a backstory on the illustrator or I think the doctor who drew this picture behind her, but let's watch.
Like, you need to be skinnier in order to be attractive. Remember this diagram. Keep in mind, a man drew this, okay? And this is not...
Okay, so it's a drawing of a female, and the description says Durer. Is that how you say it? Durer anticipated that his canon of proportions would offer new insights on what would separate his work from the canon of perspective current in Italy as it applied to feminine loveliness.
This was just his opinion.
And it's like a curvy, like romantic style.
But I just want to give you a little visual of what the normal looking body proportions on a woman was in 1528.
Okay. Image of a normal woman and profile. So basically an average 2026 female, a fat woman. I don't know though. Let's do some research. Okay. So what I found was Albrecht Dürer was, I'm assuming, some kind of a mathematician, maybe what was he? He was a painter from the 1500s, and so he's known for using geometry to create proportions for art and artists and all that jazz, right, during the Renaissance. That is the gal here saying that this is a normal body type of a woman is just one of Albert's many body types that he created. So it says body side and frontal view of the female head type 7. So he had like he had created multiple different body types and labeled them accordingly, but they were all different proportions. There was no like normal body size that he created or whatever. See, here's another one. I mean, again, they're not like stick thin or rail thin, but he did them for males and females. These aren't all him, but like, let's see more. But that one in particular, it just feels like a reach. I knew it was a reach too, but that one in particular, calling that a normal body size when in the 1500s we know that not a lot of people were. I mean, that's clearly an obese body, right? That's obese, I would say. But anyway, this wasn't the normal, right? This is just a person's art. And they had other art, like they did other proportions. This is another one by him. This is another one by him. He just drew bodies and to show their proportion and how they moved and everything. It was for, you know, you need a variety of bodies because bodies come in different varieties. I don't think he ever claimed that this was a normal body size.
That was considered attractive. Okay, take a
Yeah, in the 1500s, larger bodies were considered attractive, and we've come across this because we know that like larger bodies back in the day meant that you were probably more rich or probably more affluent or what's the word I'm looking for? More well off, like you had money for food and shit.
look at it.
You were wealthy.
This image is in a book called Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings that I highly recommend this read, by the way, The Racial Origins of Fatphobia. So whenever you have like a fatphobic thought in your head, like about yourself or about anyone else, just remember you never got to choose this thought, okay? This was like conditioned in you from a young age. You got conditioned with this thought without your consent that fat is bad.
Fat is bad. Guys, listen up. If you're obese.
Yes.
Fat is not good. Being in an obese body is not healthy ever. It's never going to be healthy, you guys. Because excess adipose tissue on your body is hormonally active. Visceral fat is the most dangerous fat that you can have. That's the fat that's around your organs, strangling them organs, but also like preventing them from doing their thing. And being in an obese body makes you more susceptible to the 13 different types of cancers, and those are the cancers that make up 40% of all cancers in the United States. So it is bad to be in an obese body.
Think about like a racist old white man in like 1600 who started being like, and so you must be skinny because we don't want to look like that.
I don't think that ever happened. I really don't think that ever happened. I don't think that, again, I mentioned this already, but I don't think that people in the 1600s were like looking at slaves and being like, I don't want to look like a slave. Let me get skinny. I don't think that at all, because I don't think that the slaves were fat. Like, I just don't. I mean, obviously we know genetically fat.
Sorry for another voiceover, but what I'm trying to say is that fat deposits, the way that your body stores fat is genetically determined. We can't really generalize the way that people store fat based off of their race, because we know people who are of color who have dump trucks, and we know white women who also have dump trucks. We know black women who are very, very thin, being Polish. We know white people who are very, very thin and being Polish. So I don't think that in the 1600s, people were looking at, for example, Sarah Bartman and thinking, I don't want that. I just don't think it was happening.
I really don't think that was the case. Also, wasn't that a time when like people were like stuffing, like putting pillows in their dresses? Am I wrong? Somebody, if is there a fashion person in the comments, let me know when that was. I don't have time to look it up, but it's just not adding up to me. And then the whole like diagram with that drawing from Drew Rare or whatever his name was, claiming that was a normal body type, I just don't believe it. And now I feel like I need to buy that book and just see if he really did call it normal. I couldn't find it on the internet. I searched for like 20 minutes.
And think about if you want to have that in your brain. We're breaking generations.
See, and then there's this whole like, I don't know what the term is called, but when they kind of make you feel bad in a way, sort of like they're not necessarily calling you racist for feeling bad about being fat, but like they're kind of like, do you really want that in your brain? Like they're kind of very, very softly calling you racist for not wanting to be fat.
Fatphobia and racism. Yay! Whenever you feel like you need to be skinnier,
again, you're not black. I mean, I don't know for sure if she has any if she has black DNA in her or anything like that. I don't know if she's 100% white is what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is she looks like she's not black. Why are you trying to push fatness so badly? I'm so confused. That is my video for today on how fat acceptance likes to co-opt racism so that they can continue to eat whatever they want. and we don't like that. We think that that's icky, and I don't believe that fatphobia is a racist thing. If you believe that fatphobia is a racist thing, let's discuss in the comments below. Keep it civil, but in my opinion, what's racist is actual hate towards Black people.
And other races, all races. If you hate or discriminate against somebody because of the color of their skin or their ethnicity, you are a racist.
Fatphobia is the fear of fat, and the obesity epidemic is affecting everybody in this country. Almost 75% of the country is fat. Is 75% of the country Black? No. So what do you mean?
What do you mean?
Anyway, let me know in the comments below what you guys thought. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Juneteenth. Yay, freedom. And in the comments below, why don't you guys leave me your favorite fruit emoji just to let me know that you made it all the way to the end. I really appreciate you guys watching all the way through. I hope that it wasn't too rambly scrambly. And I had a lot, plenty of good things to say. Maybe this will be a shorter episode than I thought. But anyway, you guys have a wonderful episode. Nope. Have a wonderful episode. Have a wonderful day. I need to feed my dogs and get ready for work. Goodbye.
We interrupt this program for an important news announcement.
Okay, everybody, I picked a random number picker from Google, and I want to thank everybody who participated in the giveaway. Thank you so much for signing up and believing in me and being here and just, loving me. But the number picked was 166. And after, as you can see, everything has been randomized. After I've randomized the list a few times, the number 166 is the winner, and that person is Kylie only 9877. So Kylie, I will be shooting you an email and we will discuss like t-shirts and which design you want to use and what size and color t-shirt, all that jazz. And I'll mail you something. And thank you again for believing in me and being a subscriber. And yeah, I can't believe we made it to 5K, you guys. We did it. We are a YouTuber.
Oh my god, my Shayla.
Last day I knew you were my pet. I wanna tell you that I love you.